Welcome to the final episode of the Sommelier Series with Nederburg, which is where I am, in the middle of the vineyards with a gorgeous backdrop behind me. It is a superb picture postcard illustration of just why this part of Paarl is so lovely. And so it makes sense to go from one glorious view to another, and the views out across the V&A waterfront and Table Bay that you get from the One&Only. It's an iconic hotel brand found around the world, and the one in Cape Town is as good as any. My main reason to go there is for the food at Nobu and the wine that goes with it. And the guy who selects that wine for you, who talks you through it, is one of the great characters of South African wine. Luvo Ntezo's story, from the child of a single dad growing up in a shack in a township to a man who's now revered around the winemaking world for his contributions as a sommelier, is one of the best stories we've had, and it's one I very specifically wanted to keep for last. We started in the Cape with Tanashi at the test kitchen. We now head to the One&Only as we say goodbye to Nederburg and this glorious South African estate, and say hello to Luvo, a man with one of the best wine stories you'll ever hear. Welcome to another week of the Sommeliers with Nederburg, and welcome to one of the hottest addresses in the hotel world. This is the One&Only, in Cape Town, that's got many claims to fame. Beautiful views of Table Mountain, the only Nobu in Africa, and then one of the most celebrated sommeliers on the planet, but a sommelier who comes from a background that wouldn't suggest he was ever going to become the wine icon that he now is here in South Africa. Luvo, lovely to have you. Thank you for having us.
Can I take a moment and blush? That's a really, really kind intro. Thank you very much, and thank you for visiting our address.
It's lovely to be back at the One&Only. I'm a big fan of the restaurant, big fan of the hotel, and a particularly big fan of your story, which is just fantastic because it's so inspiring in the wine world, because you come from a background that really suggests you shouldn't be anywhere near the world of wine, and yet you've come through to become this incredible wine person. Take us all the way back to how this kid from the township, single dad raising you, who was interested in whiskey, no interest in wine, how you found a job working as a pool porter and slowly worked your way into the world of wine.
Dan, you're going to write my autobiography. You definitely are going to. You know, having started at Nederburg and worked my way there into wine, I realized there's something I had missed in life that I never really understood, which I would like everybody to get to learn about wine. Wine is part of our heritage. Whether you are in a wine business or not, it's part of our heritage, it's part of our identity, it's part of our culture, it's part of our being. Van Riebeeck wrote on his journal on the 2nd of February, 1659, "Praise be to God, for today we made wine for the first time from the Cape's virgin grapes, and this Cape is our home." So that was the beginning of our story into the world of wine.
There are so many incredible moments that you've had that have shaped this career of yours. One that gives me a real chuckle every time I think about it or read about it was an English family who were out on holiday, and instead of ordering wine by the glass, you were a pool porter, polishing glasses, helping to serve, and you got asked to open a bottle of wine.
Oh my goodness. I had to lie and say I only started yesterday. That was a wake-up moment for me. You know, it's when you work at the pool, people come through and they order just a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. You don't particularly need to know, because you go to the bar, the barman will give you a glass and a tray, and they ordered a bottle. It was busy. It was on a Sunday. So they said, "Look, there's a bottle opener." I couldn't navigate my way around it. None at all. And they eventually helped me out. There was a really challenging moment, but at the end, you kind of relook at that moment and think, is it concerning that you don't know how to open a bottle of wine? Or that's maybe not a concern. The concern is that you don't know anything about what you're serving, and you're working in an environment that's producing this. And that was the first time that I moved into the journey and built a relationship with John Lopeshaw, who was the winemaker at the time, and Herman Heinekom. And I said, I would like to know what is a Sauvignon Blanc. That's a grape. I beg your pardon. That's a grape. And that was then that I was humbled and brought into learning more about wine.
They were such a big part of your initial journey, and these were two guys who took a fairly young guy with no wine background under their wing, and they'd, I'd imagine, were a really big catalyst in transforming you into somebody who wanted to make wine such a part of their life.
I was a bit rough. I lived in a township, and this was all new to me. But the manner in which Hanekom and Lobsha looked at me with, I mean, their faces were beaming with pride. This is their passion. This is what they wake up to do every single day. And someone comes and asks, what is a Sauvignon Blanc? You know, they gave me their time, which I always think is an ultimate luxury in the world. If someone gives you their time, you tap into their space. And they were really kind-hearted, gentlemanly about it. And everything I did since then was just a nice tribute and dedication to them, that this country can be so much better with more people like them.
They, I think, saw something in you as well and helped set you on that path. You then moved away from Steenberg and you found yourself in another part of Cape Town at the 12 Apostles. But even then, you were polishing glasses, the work was quite menial. Did you have any aspirations at that stage? Did you think that I'm going to become a sommelier, that I'm going to move into the wine business?
Not at all, to be honest. I liked the idea of wine, for it just gave me a different perception and perspective in life. It made me understand the world differently. You live in Kailicha, and the story you know about the country and the world is a story that is told in the circles of Kailicha. And less than 2 kilometers away, there's Stellenbosch. And we tell a completely different story about Stellenbosch. And these gentlemen gave me an opportunity to merge these stories and to build something out of it. In Kailicha, when you think wine at that time, all was in my mind is it's a beverage of racist, Afrikaner, black-hating, wealthy people. And once I tapped into it and got to understand wine, I got access into people's passions, people's hearts, people's times, and even people's homes. And, you know, I liked that this is not the story I was brought up with within the township of Kailicha. And since then up to this day, it's a mission of mine to continue telling a story of enlightenment that transcends beyond the borders of the townships, so that people can learn to coexist. We don't have to be one's culture, but we've got to learn to coexist and understand the dynamics of cultures, and that way people live much better.
You were this young guy at the 12 Apostles, this world of wine, still all mysterious and new and different. And yet, and I need you to tell me if this story is true or not, because it sounds like a fairy tale moment, you were supposedly given a glass of wine that everybody else was quite happy with, and you picked up something wrong with it.
I will never forget that wine. Can I tell you the name of the wine?
Please do.
It was a Constantia Eitzer. Was it a Chardonnay? I can't remember the vintage. It must be roughly around about 2004 something. I've tasted this wine before at Steenberg, because at some point John Lobshaw was involved in the production of this wine. So they were tasting this wine, and they were happy with it. And I was not supposed to taste at work. My job is to make sure that everybody has got glasses. Maybe I had polished a little bit too much glasses, and someone said, there's a glass for you. Now, as they were tasting the wine and they were talking about it, did you say this wine is nice? Yeah, but if you look at the color of this wine, for a very young wine, it's cloudy, it's very brown, and if you smell it, it's almost like a sherry that's been opened for 2 years. It's oxidized, it's completely all over the place. You cannot drink that. Now, I was supposed to have this conversation with the person at the back, but maybe I'm a little bit loud. And I got an audience, and the general manager of the time was standing, making a phone call because the restaurant before service is probably the most quiet place in a hotel, and my life changed. That was the moment that changed my life. And people said, all right, let's open another bottle. He said, no, 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 no. Let him open and let him pour. And then I did. And then when I poured, I said, if you look at the glass on my side, it's pale straw, green tinge, clean, clarity is right there. And you look at this one, if you smell it, it's fresh, it's bright, it's clean as it should be. That's how a good, clean wine should be like. It changed my life.
And thus became a legend.
Oxidized wine changed my life. Oxidized wine.
The extension of that story, which I think also speaks volumes about your passion, they offered you a job as an assistant or trainee sommelier with a pay rise, but you didn't want a pay rise,
No.
you wanted something else.
I didn't want a salary increase. And, it's nice to get a salary, but what I needed was something tangible, something I can hold on to. I needed an opportunity to learn and be developed. I couldn't afford Cape Wine Academies and WSETs. All I had was just a matric at the time. And I said, you can keep the salary. However, instead of the salary, you can assist me with my development academically into the world of wine so that I can be a better person, so that one day if I'm no longer part of this distinguished address, at least I've got something to hold on. They gave me both. They gave me both, which I always, always be grateful to them, always.
Just one last question on a special wine memory. I know that pouring a bottle of Thelema Cabernet Sauvignon is always really important to you.
Yes.
Because it's got a special link.
Yes, it does. It does. Boy, I'm not going to cry. It does. My dad is everything. I love him. He's everything to me. And he knows I work in this world of wine. He's never, ever been in a wine farm in his life. And I always occasionally bring my dad a bottle of wine whenever I visit. But I decided, let's drive together. Let's go into a wine farm. And I always enjoy Thelema. I really thoroughly do. So I thought, let me take my dad to somewhere where I get so much joy. And that was the first time my dad ever visited a wine farm, ever. He tasted the wines, and I could see my dad was really emotional. And I said, is there one wine that's tapping into your heart here? And he said, there is nothing the wines are great, but there's nothing far greater and more satisfactory for me than the manner in which I watch them treat you. And that's enough.
So it's a great example of wine being at the heart of so many stories and weaving its way through people's history and creating
stories,
that thread.
Yeah, it's about stories. I think then sometimes people can't tell a difference between a Cabernet Sauvignon from Nederburg or a Cabernet Sauvignon from Thelema. But people relate easily with stories, and stories bring people much closer to products.
I know that you've got the kitchen producing a dish. You've chosen a bottle of
Yeah.
wine. I'm fascinated to find out what it is. So we're going to send Luvo off to the kitchen and then to his cellar. And when he's back, there'll be a dish from here at the One and Only and a bottle of wine. And I cannot wait to find out what it is. Right, so Luvo's emerged from his cellar, a cellar I'd quite happily be locked into for hours at a time, and gone via the kitchen. The food looks terrific, but before we get that, the really important part, what are you dazzling with me with this particular bottle, Luvo?
It's one of my favorite wines. This is it's made by Erica Obermeyer, She's a very, very good friend of mine. She's a former winemaker for Graham Back. And when Graham Back closed the still wine business, she started her own, and she really did great for herself. She's a Platter Guide Newcomer of the Year with a couple of 5 stars. But I like a Sauvignon Blanc that's not one-dimensional, that's not thin, but much more with a bit of weight, more complexity, but at the same time with nice acidity. And she made this really outstanding stuff here that we going to drink. That's a 2017 Sauvignon Blanc. You know, it's got quite a nice bottle age, nice green tinge, pale straw, but at the same time almost light offish gold. The nose, slightly grassy, but you get that underripe green guava. You know, that's there. English gooseberry, freshly cut. This is just inviting. It smells so fresh, so fresh.
So let's find out what this dish is. So
Yep.
this is, who's the chef responsible here?
Chris Murray. Chris is a resort, one and only resort executive chef, and I asked him to create something that I love eating. You know, he said, "All right, let's do your usual." And right here, this is a classic style of a Caesar salad, without the dressing, because I like it a little bit more crunchy and clean. We've got a little bit of tomatoes. It's a chicken Caesar. We've got anchovies. I like a lot of anchovies. Anchovies can be they come with natural salts then, but that is great for acidity because it neutralizes your acidity. I guess that's one of the a simple 101 rules of food and wine pairing. You're not going to throw a very aggressive, chalky, big, bold red on a dish like this. Yeah. Otherwise, it will just disintegrate and fall apart. Yeah. Shall we?
Let's do that. I'm going to have a little mouthful of the wine first.
Please do. I still have 9 hours ahead of me. Is that okay?
Yeah. Although just to clarify, by that, Luvo will be finishing this bottle sitting at the pool deck at the One and Only in his official Speedo, enjoying the sunshine of the Cape in summer.
That's research and development.
You have infectious enthusiasm for wine, and it's wonderful to see. Thank you for sharing your story with us today, sharing a great bottle of wine, sharing some lovely food, and inspiring us. And you speak about the journey. It wouldn't seem at first glance as though you might have reached your summit, but I suspect there's still a few chapters of the Luvo Ntezo story
There's
to be
so
told.
many. There's so many. And in fact, a couple of days ago, I was sitting over a Caesar salad with Erica Obermeyer, the person, not the wine. We were having espresso, and we were talking about, you know, the continuation of telling the story through wine, the next chapter. And there's really exciting things coming up into the future.
Of that, I have absolutely no doubt. Luvo, cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
And to many more great glasses
To
of wine.
many more. Thank you very much. And to our viewers at home, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Cheers.